Stronger together. Stronger, stronger together.
Hey, it's Karel, and welcome to another edition of Life in Segments. $71 billion. I feel like Dr. Evil when I do it. I should do $71 billion. That's a huge figure. That's an enormous figure. Now, I've been thinking about that figure a lot because before we get things going and we start the show today, I want to talk a little about religion. Now, if you see the Bible stack behind me, you would think I was the biggest Catholic or Christian in the world, but of course, I'm an atheist. But religion has been in the news again in the form of Scientology. And whether or not you think these fools are crazy, Scientology is an organized, recognized religion. It's got tax-exempt status. It's just like Catholics, Protestants, Jews, all of it. Scientology is just as recognized as the Mormon Church. And now there's another actress. It doesn't matter really when you're watching this because there's always some actor or actress escaping Scientology and coming out and saying, oh my God, it's a bunch of bat crap crazy people. Well, yeah, of course it's a bunch of bat crap crazy people. If you ask me, all religion is bat crap crazy people. So let's not get into comparisons here about whether Xenu is more crazier than Yahweh or whatever the case might be. And I'm sorry, by the way, if I'm offending any of you. I don't mean to. Your personal beliefs are your personal beliefs, but that's not what we're talking about here. The fact is, most of us believe Scientologists in particular are a particular brand of crazy. So why are they tax exempt? You know, why do we offer tax exemption to people who are basically insane? Or people who are exploiting other individuals and making money or profiting off of them and still remaining tax-free? From what I've heard about Scientology, from what Leah Remini, Paul Haggis, all these other people who have come out from the film Going Clear, right on down the line, they basically use child labor. Tom Cruise, basically uses labor for his house and for his boats and for his planes or whatever that's basically unpaid. It's supplied by the church, the Sea Org organization. And so they should be looked at federally for any kind of criminality. But I think so should the Catholics. Because, if you think that the priest scandal is over, you can go to my website, reallykarel.com, and read all about, there on the website, I have posted articles all about the fact that it's not. There's an organization called Abuse Watch that keeps track of new abuses that spring up or how the church hasn't dealt with old abuses. So let's not argue any. Let's just put all of that aside. Let's just look at a 21st century view of religion where we have Joel Osteen living in $10 million homes. We have religions and churches and organizations that can have their own broadcasting networks because they have so much money at their disposal. It is time to tax the churches. And I think God would want us to. And this is the truth. Let me just be very clear about this. If there is a deity, whether it's Xenu or Yahweh or whomever, I really believe if it cared about its people, it would want its people to be cared for. Now, unfortunately, in today's world, to care for people, it takes money. And the federal government just doesn't have enough, it says, to take care of us. So $71 billion could fund food stamps, could double the food stamp budget. $71 billion dumped into schools, dumped into helping homeless, and not just homeless vets. I'm tired of hearing about how we have to house all the homeless vets. Every homeless person deserves a home, not just a vet. So $71 billion dumped in to our system could really help. Look, churches are political. Any of you watching this right now know Scientology is political. They donate to political campaigns. They back political people, whether publicly or not. Catholics certainly are political when it comes to abortion or gay marriage, whatever it might be. Every religion is now political. In fact, I would argue that religion is the source of much politics and that preachers are the original politicians. So we all know that they're political now. We all know that they should be taxed. How about we do it? How about you call your local representative, whomever it might be? How about you call your state congressperson or you call your senator? Don't just email them online. Find their phone number and call them. There's many resources for that. How about you ring them up and say, hey, I think it's time we tax the churches. Because I don't care how crazy Leah Remini was or is. I don't care how crazy Scientology is. I don't care how crazy Catholics are or the Mormons who are another particular kind of crazy. I don't care about any of that. What I care about now is that they're skating on billions of dollars in money. And if I have to pay taxes, why don't they? We need to ask ourselves that, America. Now, I want you to sit back and enjoy the rest of Karel Life in Segments. This, of course, is Pippa Maria Chimona Boulay. As you can see, she's riveted by everything I have to say. All right, so here on Cooking for the 99, I try to give you the idea of how to cook on $15 a day or less. And that's because that averages about $450 a month, and for most people, that's all they can spend on food, even if they're a family. Now, one of the biggest questions of the day is how to get it started. Do you do a cereal? Do you do a protein? Do you do both? And the answer lies in something that's quick, something that's easy. It's great for you and your family. It's only limited by your imagination. You can make it any way that you want to make it. I call it egg in the basket. I used to call it toad in the hole, and I was completely and totally wrong. But now I call it egg in the basket as it's supposed to be. You might call it egg in a nest. Now, some of you might remember this from childhood, and it's like, why did you give it up? If you take into account the cost of the egg and the piece of bread, and I, of course, make a lovely pot of tea, then you're looking at probably under $1 for your breakfast, $1.50 tops, depending upon how you dress it up. Now, the first thing you need to do to decide is to get some of the ingredients out. You need a piece of whole wheat bread. A carb is not a bad thing as long as it's a whole carb. So get a piece of whole wheat bread, and I like to get the wide ones. Don't use the little skinny square pieces of bread. It's not going to suit you well. So get a piece of whole wheat bread, get an egg. Now, you can be politically correct and buy the $7 a pack eggs that were allegedly raised in Barca loungers and, fed martinis. Or you can get the eggs that you hope your state has made sure that the chickens don't live in terror. So your carbohydrate, you need a little bit of carbohydrate. So pick yourself a whole wheat protein. Get inventive with the bread if you want. I use whole wheat. I use the larger. Then, of course, get your egg going on. Then you need to decide, am I going to go sweet or am I going to go savory? Because you can go either way. Today, I'm going to go sweet, which means I'm going to have some cinnamon and nutmeg on hand and a little bit of drizzle of maple syrup. If you went savory, you could have some Swiss cheese on hand and cover it with that. You could and then you could put salsa on top of it. You could put marinara on top of it with some mozzarella cheese. You really can get as inventive as you want to for mornings, still staying right around 220 calories and under $1 to $1.50. So I have my wonderful little piece of bread here. This used to go with a tea strainer that came from Pete's Tea. You want to find something that's right around the diameter of an egg, about 1.5 inches across. Okay, whether it's the top of a cup, I've used glasses before, find one that's the right size. So no matter what you use, you want to do this. Take this and cut a hole in your bread. Push it right on through. Pull it up so it doesn't break the bread. You don't want to make a mess. And pull your little thing right out. So there you have this, and you're going to save this. And you have this ready to put your egg inside of it. I have preheated over here, because it's important to preheat. I have preheated a medium-sized all-clad skillet, all-clad being one of the sponsors of Cooking for the 99, and we thank that. So I'm over here, and now here's the part that's going to make some of you cringe. Cook it in butter. Whole fats are better than margarine. You could use cooking spray if you wanted to, and if you're a cooking spray person, use a cooking spray. I've used cooking spray countless times. Use a cooking spray if you want to. But a little dab and a teaspoon, European-sized teaspoon, people, less than a teaspoon of butter, and it's all going to be good. So we go into our butter. See, we get less than a teaspoon of butter here. We're going to go and put this in our all-clad. I'm going to use my favorite spatula. I'm going to get that butter all around the lovely pan. Oh, I love the smell of cooking butter. Okay, now that your butter's in the pan, I want you to take your bread. Hello, hello. And you can amaze your family and friends with this if you like. I want you to take this and put it in there first. Lay it down and put its hole next to it. Okay? I hope you can see that. So throw that in there first so it can start to toast. Okay? This is where the cinnamon and nutmeg that my niece gave me for Christmas when she worked at Pete's Tea, this is where this comes into effect. Take your little teaspoon that you have and just take a little bit of cinnamon. You don't want too much. And a little bit of nutmeg. Again, you don't want too much. And just sprinkle it on your bread. And for the lack of the way this sounds, sprinkle some on your hole. But be careful when you do that. It could sting. Anyway, so sprinkle some cinnamon and nutmeg on there. Put as much as you want. Touch it if you like. Sprinkle, do what you wish. If you get some on the side, it's just going to smoke a little bit. Throw the rest of this away. You don't want or need it. Don't be a cinnamon and nutmeg hoarder. So put that away. You're pretty much done with the butter. So put that away. Now we're going to put the egg in. Don't break the yolk. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. I'm so freaking good. You want to cook it all the way until the white on the inside is cooked. Because these are meant to be made over easy. These must be over easy. I don't care if you don't eat eggs that are over easy. This must be over easy. So that's just the way that is. You've got your trusted, get a spatula that you love. I love this spatula. Me and this spatula have been together every morning for years. It's tattered, it's torn, it's worn. It's my spatula. All right, the white is cooking, the white is cooking, the white is cooking. Then you're going to turn both things over, the hole that went on the inside and the egg in the nest. And when you do that, you're going to turn off your flame, okay? So I'm just about at that stage. A little bit of white on top, but not much. The yolk is still uncooked and beautiful. That's where all the protein is. Eggs are not as terrible as they used to say for us. They're not. First, we're going to turn this little guy over. Then turn this off. And voila. I would say let it stay in there no longer than 5 or 10 seconds after you flip it. 5, 10. There we go. Right about there. Take it out. Forget the maple syrup. I think we should have a little apricot jam on top of it. Just a little tiny bit. Right there on top of that. You can spread that around later. If you want to get creative for your kids, you can make a face or put a little on the sides or do something inventive that you want. I don't know. This is all natural fruit preserves. It's just fruit and a little sugar. And you know where I get it? The 99-cent store. Not making that up. Apricot, all natural jam, no GMOs, no preservatives, no corn syrup, no gluten, no artificial colors or flavors, 99 cents at the 99-cent store. So you can put your little dollops on there and then serve your egg in the basket, and the people that eat it will love it. And if I did my job right, of course it did have to sit for camera, okay? So if this isn't over easy, it's not my fault. It had to sit for focusing. Please be, there it is, look at that, just look at that. Now some of you are going, ick, but oh no. Dip the toast in there, get this toast going on in there, get yourself a lovely cup of tea, and have yourself a breakfast that cost you less than $1, and with the tea in a restaurant would have cost you over 6 or 7. Just because we're members of the 99 doesn't mean we can't eat like that, honey. That yolk is perfect, absolutely perfect. I'm gonna dip, I'm gonna dunk. I'm gonna dunk in the yolk, I'm gonna dunk in the tea. Oh, mm.
It is the Karelcast. I am Karel. So very glad you are joining me. Oh my God, have I stepped into it? I have to tell you. I mean, I am like that guy on that Geico commercial looking at that cat going, help, as he sinks into the quicksand. I have stepped in it this week. Actually. And as a 52-year-old grown adult, I get to say I'm having a Twitter war, which I never thought in my entire life I would live to say that I'm having a Twitter war. I'm not even sure what the casualties are in a Twitter war, but there are, in fact, and I'm having one. And I'm having one really over addiction and over responsibility and over blame. And of course, these are things that are so relevant in the news. The blame, blame. And it came about by a news story, which I hope is very old for you by now. A story about, this story is not old. That's the thing. There'll always be another one of these stories. And that is a self-absorbed pop star of some kind, basketball, football, whatever it might be. Some person that's got more money than most of us will ever see in our entire lives. They go off and they OD on something. They do something and they end up in the hospital near death. And then suddenly everything's just, we love them. It's all just so much caring. And we're going to get into that save me your fake caring later. In doing this, in talking about this, not just with friends, but on the air, some people got really angry at me because they said, well, you want to blame the addict. You are an addict blamer. You addict blamer, you. And I thought to myself, I want to blame the addict. Okay. First of all, I never once said we shouldn't have compassion for people who end up in dire straits because of their addictions. If Philip Seymour Hoffman had taken just a little less heroin and had ended up in a hospital somewhere, of course I would have cared if he had recovered. It's not like I don't have compassion. I do. But we have this problem with responsibility in our culture, and it's getting to an all-time high. South Park is making fun of it. They're getting sued because of it, which means they're doing their job. But we have this problem of responsibility, and we don't want to take it. We just don't want to take it. For pretty much anything throughout the world right now, we don't want to take responsibility. However, there comes a point where you have to, right? If you are an addict, are the drugs magically jumping into your body? Because I don't want to hear about how you're in the control of this. Because first of all, the first thing they do to get you out of this drug thing, if you're in it, is to tell you that you have no control. And then to give your control up to some higher power. Yeah, that always works, by the way. 90% failure rate on AA, but they never tell you that when you go to the meetings. However, isn't it ultimately the addict's responsibility that they're addicted? Isn't that now is that blame? So is there a difference between responsibility and blame? And I say absolutely. And it's time we start acting like grown-ups in this country and we realize that there is a difference between responsibility and blame. Because we're so afraid for being blamed. Bill Maher went on television right after 9/11 and said that the United States might shoulder some of the blame for what happened. Oh, well, you saw what happened. ABC said bye, see ya. He's been much happier on HBO, by the way, but that doesn't matter. It happened because he just brought up that maybe, just maybe, we had something to do with that event. And people weren't going to hear that we in some way were to blame for this heinous attack on America on 9/11. Which is not, was he saying it was deserved? No. You see, semantics really are everything. We talk about responsibility, and let's just take it away from addiction. Addicts end up in the hospital. It's what happens. And then they either decide to kick it or not. But because we have this attitude in this country that if you're an addict, you can never go back and do anything ever again, we have them dying. That's why addicts die. They die because they think that if they go back to this drug, first of all, they can do the same amounts that they've done before. So if Lamar Odom or any celebrity had taken a break from, say, cocaine or heroin or whatever, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Corey Monteith, these people took a break from their drugs, and then when they went back to the drugs, they thought they could take the same amount as they were doing before. Well, you can't. So, of course, they died. Are they to blame for their deaths? Do you blame people who owed? Is Philip Seymour Hoffman to blame for his death? Is he? He's the one that shot the heroin into his arms in that hotel room. Is he responsible or to blame? See, there's a difference because he is responsible. He did it. It's his responsibility. Now, is he to blame for it? Let's look at responsibility for something else going on in the world right now that people don't want to talk about as we talk about the difference between responsibility and blame. You know, when I was in Ireland, they are having a referendum. They're talking about what to do about refugees. And these are the 4.2 or 4.3 million refugees coming from Syria. And they're going everywhere, all over Europe, Germany, they're going to Ireland, they're going to, everywhere, Greece, just everywhere. And they're living under horrific circumstances, and governments don't know what to do about it, and it's a real mess. Now, the question becomes, who is responsible for that mess? Why are there all of those refugees? Who's responsible for that? Well, our news doesn't want to talk about the answer to that question because it's us. Our policies, our failed policies in the Middle East have made us responsible for all of these people saying, well, you guys made it really horrible. We're talking unlivable. They're leaving everything behind and just picking up. Imagine like where you are right now, just wherever you're sitting or standing or whatever, wherever you are right now. Imagine with nothing more than what you have right there around you. That's it. Imagine starting to walk to another country, just another country, without your family, without your friends. All of a sudden, you're just on your way. Now we did this with 2017 is when I think we're going to leave Afghanistan. With this sustained war, the longest in U.S. history, by the way, we've created these refugees. In Syria, we've created refugees in our bombing attacks. We've killed 3,000 people with drone attacks alone, 25% collateral damage. That's a fancy word for oops, sorry. And that's really 25% of that. So that's like 1,500 people that we've killed with a drone that probably we shouldn't have. And what have we done about that? Nothing. So people are leaving. You would leave too if you thought like up above your house at any moment there could be something that like destroys your house or your neighbor's house because they think that, oh my goodness, someone from some organization is like bunking in the hotel, 2 doors down. So suddenly your house is blown to crap. Oops, sorry, collapse. So you leave. Well, who's responsible for that? We are. But are we to blame? And that's the problem that we have with taking responsibility. We think if we step up and we say, yes, we're responsible for something, that then people will start blaming us for it and we'll feel bad about ourselves. And, maybe we should. Maybe we should feel badly. Maybe, we make an environment now. We want to make safe spaces for everybody. And this is starting to really get on my nerves. No one can be bullied. Nobody can have anything negative said. I am the person I am today because I was called fag and queer and homo and everything else that I was called as a child made me who I am today. It made my defense mechanisms what they are, which are humor, wit, which are knowing everything. So I'm the smartest person in the room. So you can't, get one up on me. If I hadn't been the bullied child, if I hadn't been the person picked on, I'm not sure I would be me. So, I look on this whole safe space thing where we're suddenly in your world, you have the right to not be offended anymore. That, oh no, you can't offend me. Because no one wants to be offended. No one wants to take responsibility. Everyone's afraid to say they're to blame. I heard Joe Biden say that Republicans are not our enemy. They are our enemy. I feel they're traitors. They should probably be tried for treason. At least we know 2 of them that should be. It's the unindicted war criminals that were the former leaders of the party. In fact, they continually run from who's to blame. The Republican, this is the party that sent us to Iraq and Afghanistan. And now they're trying to act like they had no idea what the hell. They're like, what? What? No, that was no, we did that? Jeb Bush is trying to act like while he was in Florida, his head was stuck up some key somewhere, and that he did not know what his brother was doing up in Washington, D.C. Because he's on the campaign trail like, oh, really? An Iraq war? You don't say. I'll have people look into that. He's like Donald Trump, who everything he has to look into. He has to just look into everything. He should look into why he's running. That's what he should look into. So is there a difference between responsibility and blame? Yes, there is. And it's time that we realize what happens to us in the next year. You know what? Over the next, everyone's New Year's resolutions have happened, and it's that time of year where you're looking more positive. You're sort of looking ahead. Everything that happens to you over the next year, you're responsible for. Everything that I am tired of you hearing. Oh no, Washington's responsible for it. This is responsible. No, you're responsible for it because you don't do anything about it. You don't do a thing about it. You don't have the time. You don't have the inclination. Oh, I'm not politically minded. Oh, I barely can get down to vote. Well, this is what you get. This is what you get. And you get a culture, by the way, that coddles people like addicts instead of telling them, if you continue to do this drug, one of two things will happen. You will die or you'll lose all your teeth and live a miserable life. Oh no, we've got to give them safe spaces. Let's all root for them. Please, how about we make them responsible? Think about this. We have a country that covets guns, but gun owners don't want to be responsible for their guns. They don't want to have to license them properly. They don't want to have to insure them. Oh my God, when you mention, insure your weapon, they're like, why should I have to insure my handgun? They don't want to take responsibility for their own handguns, and yet they want them. Of course, there's a difference between responsibility and blame, and it's time that we realize, all of us, in our personal lives and in our public lives, whatever happens to us is on us. It's your responsibility to either fix it, to change it, to accept it, to work with it, or to stick your head in the sand and say to yourself, oh no, it's not me, I had nothing to do with it. When all the while Rome burns. And honey, look out the window. The flames are pretty high.